So I want to talk today about a problem that I see that people have as the basis of their relationships. When I see this happen over and over again, it's a kind of a misunderstanding of how relationships are and the model of the way that we use and the framework to look at love and relationships. And I think most of our understanding, childhood view. So like I've talked about in the operating system about how we look, how we see the world, how we understand the world comes about from how we learned it. And it may be most of what we have in our operating system of the way that we look at and see the world as being has happened before the age of 7. The way that we look at and see the world as being has happened before the age of 7. And so if you look at our understanding of relationships, we grow up with this whole fairy tale that the prince is going to fall in love with the princess and they're going to live happily ever after. And so the idea is that when someone falls in love with her, when a couple get together, if the love is strong enough, that's enough. But I think our reality is showing us that this is an illusion. So I want to talk a little bit deeper about the problem of the fairy tale model of love. Because I think it's also, if you look at how we have our weddings, replicating like that image of becoming the princess with the big pretty dress, and it's like the day has to be perfect and so full of promise. And at that time, everyone thinks like love's going to last forever. But as most couples who've been married 10, 20, 30 years, know that it's not really like a marriage is not a fairy tale. And so I think the way our society is, it also supports the idea of the fairy tale, because the fairy tale has been about for hundreds of years, and we've all kind of grown up on it. And our society has been built by people who've grown up with that model. And so let's look a little bit more at some of the problems. So the problem for the princess, and I think as a general rule, the idea of the fairy tale and the idea of the magical wedding to girls. And so for women, there's a lot of pressure, and they feel like if there's a problem in the relationship, even though they might consciously know what the problem is, they feel like it's like he doesn't love me enough. And if he doesn't love me enough, there's something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? And the most unconscious thing is, well, I can't be beautiful enough. And then when we look at our own media and advertising is based on making money, it's an economic model that makes money out of your attention, and it's based on selling to vulnerabilities. Like, you need this skin cream because your skin's not good enough. You need this makeup to be beautiful. You need this dress. You need this, and if you look at the magazines and a lot of the media, it's about, if you're beautiful enough, he'll fall in love with you. If he doesn't love you, it's because you're not beautiful enough. And it's a simplistic idea that plays on like a childhood understanding of love and relationship. So then there's also a problem for the prince, because for the prince, if the princess is beautiful enough, the prince will fall in love. But if the prince is gallant enough, if he's strong enough, if he's able to achieve, like, overcome the challenge, or undoing the spell or whatever, he wins the princess. She's so happy, and she falls in love with him, and because he's such a gallant prince. And so she falls in love with him, he falls in love with her, and therefore with him, he falls in love with her, and therefore they live happily ever after. So for a man, the constant message is like, if your partner isn't happy, it's because you haven't done something right. And so there is this, they have to make everything right in their woman's world, and so that they are able to, like, it's what they do. It's how good of a provider they are, how sensitive of a husband they are, how romantic they are, how good they are at fixing thing gets, that if he, which is why a lot of men don't want to talk, like when women say, like, we need to have a talk, and it's like, oh, she's going to tell me I'm not good enough. And eventually men feel like, I'm just not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And in the end, they, not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And in the end, they check out of relationships, or they find someone who thinks they are good enough, and it's not because the princess wasn't beautiful enough. It's because he didn't feel good enough to make her happy. He didn't feel good enough to make her happy. And so again, the media and advertising sells the feelings of inadequacy. So like the big status symbol car, the big house, all these kind of top of the line gadget has to be. So the reality is that men leave, as a general rule, men will leave because they don't feel adequate, respected, or important enough. So the challenge for a man is that 15, 20, 25 years into a relationship, no one is going to think that you're wonderful. No one is going to put you on a pedestal. And yet men feel like if they're not getting that respect from their wife, their children, who see them every day, they're just like another person. But if they don't feel through the house, they don't feel like they're in that position where they feel respected and important enough, that's really what makes them unhappy in a relationship. Whereas women tend to leave because they feel unloved and neglected. And again, there is a quote that no one has ever felt loved. And so the challenge is to understand that a relationship is never going to be, no one is ever going to think that you're perfect and wonderful all the time. So both basically leave a relationship or emotionally check out when they feel that they can't change things, when they feel like this is how it is and I've tried everything I can do and I can't make it any different. So essentially, a relationship is over when someone feels that they're going to get more, they're going to be happier somewhere else than they are in the relationship. And so they become disappointed and disillusioned in relationship. And then often they'll then justify it because they'll say, well, and so they go on a hunt, and sometimes it happens again and again and again. And so they think, well, I just haven't found the one. And then there's this whole mythical idea from fairy tales that there is one out there who's going to complete you. There's one out there who's going to make everything different. It's keeping the same relationship model, but swapping the partner. And so, like the definition, as Einstein said, of insanity is doing the same thing over and again and expecting different results, because it's not necessary that a different partner is going to change anything. It's the fact that the model that you both had, about the framework from which you looked out at relationships and how to change things was flawed. And so I believe that we're using the wrong formula for love. I don't believe it's Prince meets his princess and they're happily ever after. I think we need to look at a more deeper, more... You see, let's look first at what love is. So love is a feeling that we get around someone, and we associate love with that person. But if we look deeper, if we separated the little strands, we'd realize that love isn't the feeling strands. We'd realize that love isn't the feeling we get about the person, but about how the person makes us feel. And that's why we can fall in and out of love with people, because if it was just about the person, you'd always stay in love with the person. But if it's about how they make you feel, it means you can love someone. But if it's about how they make you feel, it means you can love someone at one moment but not at another. So love is temporary, it's transitory, and it's dependent on what others do, how we interpret that, and how that makes us feel. So love is not how that makes us feel. So love is not something that's always going to be there. And that's why the illusion of, like, if you love each other, it's going to last. Because what happens when the other person does different things and they make you feel differently? What happens when the person changes? What happens when it's going to change how you feel? So love is a temporary, transitory feeling about a person based on how they make us feel. So we love people that make us feel good. We love people that make us feel good around them. We love people that are interested in us. We love people that see good things in us. So people talk about love, happiness. People talk about love, happiness, but really all there is when you look at emotions, what creates emotion is there's an underlying dynamic flow of happiness. And what stops us feeling happy and what creates different is the amount of fear that we feel. The more fear that we feel, the more negative emotions that we will have that will cover up and make us feel sad, depressed, whatever. But actually, it's just really about two dynamics, happiness and fear, which create all the different shades of emotions. So happiness is about predominantly feeling good. Again, it's a temporary feeling, but if you're looking at your general feeling, happiness can be if you're looking at your general feeling, happiness can be a generalized feeling. So love is predominantly feeling happiness when you think of a person. And so there's going to be times when you're angry and you're mad. And in that moment, in a moment, you can feel hatred, just like there's a complete lack of love in that moment. But that's a momentary thing. But you can, like once that anger or whatever is passed, you don't feel that and you go back to feeling love. So love and happiness are temporary emotions, but they're also like the general state. Like happiness is you're not going to be happy every minute of the day, but you're going to be generally happy. In the same way with love, you might not be love every second of the day, but you predominantly mostly feel love when you think of this person. So love and happiness are the absence of fear. So that's like the natural state if you take away all the fear. To look at like the nature of things, like the universe, plants, or whatever it is that it expands. So when we have what we need, we expand. So like when plants have light and water and soil and oxygen, they grow and they'll just continue to grow. In the same way, when we feel happy, we want to expand it. So when we're happy, all we want to do and give to others is happiness. We want to make people feel good. We want other people to share our happiness. We want to make people feel good. We want other people to share our happiness. We want to spread it. We want, like when people laugh, it becomes contagious because people, like if you sat in your room and read a joke or heard a joke, it wouldn't be as funny as it is when you're around other people and when you hear other people's laughter, and when you hear other people's laughter. So we are social creatures, and so we want to spread our happiness, and so when we feel love, all we want to do is talk about how we feel love, and we see more love in other things. A happy person is going to look for what else can they be happy about, and they're going to look at wanting to be in a relationship. They're going to want that connection. They're going to want to expand that happiness into, maybe it's into a family, or maybe it's just into a relationship with someone where they can build something, and have a natural focus to want to be in a relationship, to want to expand that happiness, and to have someone that you can be loving towards and give happiness to. But the problem is that unhappy people who don't have that happiness are often seeking happy people who don't have that happiness are often seeking happiness from a relationship, because happiness has to first come from yourself. And this is what I'm going to talk about now, because if you're not happy in yourself, what you look for, if you're not happy in yourself, what you look for is people look for other people in a relationship that they can get into, thinking that the other person is going to complete them, thinking that they will fill in the gaps, that they either don't know that there's something wrong with me, I can't do it, and so they're looking for their happiness from someone else. So attraction works that you see someone that you like something about, and interested, that makes you attracted to the other person, then a feeling of like a feeling of attraction, it's like lust, it's infatuation, it's interest, it's all of those things. And so it's all of those things. And so if you spend more time and the attraction grows and you get along, then eventually that develops into a relationship. And so the relationship, and this I think is something that people misunderstand as well in their understanding, is the relationship is a dynamic between two people. It's still two independent people, but the relationship is the relationship is a dynamic between the two of them. So what creates a relationship is what both of them give to the relationship. It's not necessarily given to the other person, it's giving to the relationship. But a lot of people, I think, misunderstand, where they think you're two individual people and you come together and you get into a relationship and now you're a couple and that's your identity. But this is my idea of 1 + 1 = 3. So if you have the one person, there is still an independent person, this is an independent person who lives their own life, and then the relationship rests upon the two people, that makes 3. So you have your identity as a couple. And so attraction develops into a relationship, but happy people have lots to give to each other, have lots to give to a relationship. And so when this person's given to this relationship, this person's given to this relationship, the feeling, it becomes reciprocal. It becomes a virtuous circle where both feel better and have more enjoyment of life from being in the relationship. So when you have two well-balanced, happy people who are living their own independent life, and they're happy that they're not needing it, and they're happy that they're not needing anything from the other one, that's just wanting a focus, wanting to connection and love, then you're able to create this virtuous circle. The relationship grows, deepens, and because both are continually feeding it, it's like a pool of water that's with a hose pipe that's just continuously going from both ends. It's going to fill up, it's going to swell, the relationship's going to grow, they're going to grow as individuals, they're going to feel happier, more secure, more capable of going through life. And so that's how you get the happy ever after. Looking for something from the other person. And so what happens is both are looking to take from the relationship in order to make themselves feel better in the search for happiness. And so what happens is there's an initial happiness. And so what happens is there's an initial attraction, and they both feel attraction, and they kind of forget their problems because they're lost, and this other person sees this thing in them, and there's this excitement and this infatuation. But eventually, once you get past that stage, neither one of them is giving anything to the relationship. So the relationship's dying. There's less and less that they're getting from it, and yet they're both looking for that as their source. And so the relationship shrinks, becomes less. Actually, one of them just gives up and realizes that like there's nothing there for them, and so the relationship will end. Or maybe it will just, like, if they can both suffer from that kind of relationship, then it can just go on, but it's not going to be very satisfactory for anyone. And so I just realised that the slide is wrong on this. So this is one well-balanced happy person, one unhappy person. And so basically what happens here is this person's happy, and they've got their own and they've got their own secure emotional basis. They've got their own independent life. They're getting, they're generating their own happiness, and then they're like giving that into the relationship. But their partner isn't happy, and so relationship, and so they're just basically taking. And so this person's putting into the relationship, this person's taking out, and so the relationship isn't growing. And eventually, the happy person is going to realize that there's really nothing in it for them. They're going to start to feel bitter, whatever they're putting in, they're not getting anything back from. The relationship isn't growing. They can't build the relationship because the other person's taking from it. They can't, and probably they're going to, those feelings of bitterness, those feelings of resentment are going to impact their own personal happiness, and they're going to end up not having anything to give to the relationship, and not feeling happy, not feeling that life is as good. And so that life is as good, and so the relationship is actually draining from the happy person. And the unhappy person maybe is getting something from it, and or maybe is just like their own life is shit. So it's unsatisfactory, and it will last as long as that person who's giving to the relationship is willing to support it. Because when they realize that there's nothing in it for them, when they realize that like their own happiness resources are, they can't keep supplying to others, eventually they're going to give up and realize that they're happier outside of the relationship than they are inside it. And so that relationship tends not to last, or if it does, it usually ends up with one person very bitter and very resentful. And it's just generally not, and equally the unhappy person is kind of feeling a resentment from the happy person, because they know that they're not equal. They feel like, look in the mirror, if you're not really living up to what you should and could be, and so they're going to always feel a little bit resentful, like, this person, why are they so happy, why are they so strong, why are they so much, like, how can they give to it and I can't? And so they're going to feel resentful of that. They're going to feel weaker. They're going to feel like the other person is better than them, is doing better than them, is superior to them, and nobody wants to feel that. So they're going to feel slightly resentful of that person, even while they're happy to take whatever they've got. Resentful of that person, even while they're happy to take whatever they've got to share. Okay, so this is the alternative model to the fairy tale, and it's the Brave roadmap to a happy, healthy relationship. And I think Brave is that because it takes bravery, it takes a risk to get into a relationship, and especially lots of us have had bad or failed relationships, and so we can feel that we've but it also takes a different model, a different understanding of relationships. So the basic model is that you have the emotions where you build the emotional stability. So that's as an individual, you need to be strong as an individual. As an individual, you need to be strong as an individual. As an individual, you need to envision the type of relationship that you want. You need to. A relationship is a negotiation. It's a dynamic between two people, but the relationship as a structure, as a between two people, but the relationship as a structure, as a like, what do we want the relationship to be? Is a vision, and you have two people that have two different visions of what the relationship's going to be, and so you have to have that vision to be, and so you have to have that vision, because otherwise, if you don't have a vision of how you want the relationship to be, what's going to happen is that you're going to get swept away by someone else's vision, whether it's conscious or not, by how someone else wants the relationship to be. And then what you're going to end up with is you're going to be that ultimately doesn't work for you. And so then you're going to get more and more unhappy. You're going to lose yourself in the relationship. And then you're going to realize one day, like I don't know why, but this relationship just isn't making me happy. So it's important that you have the vision of the relationship to begin with. Practing, like, there's 7, nearly 8 billion people in the planet, and there's no shortage of single people. So the problem isn't attracting someone, but dating is a set of skills. So you need to know to be able to express, first of all, know have the self-awareness to know what you have to offer, who you are, what kind of person that you want to be in a relationship with, and then the ability to express yourself so that you attract people. And then it's about filtering. It's about, you don't get into a relationship with the first person that comes along, and often people get into a relationship because, well, she's pretty, he's good looking, they're good with kids, they're intelligent, they've got a good job, and it's something like that someone just kind of latches onto, and they go, well, I just got in a relationship because of that, and they seemed okay. First, understand the relationship that you want, and then the qualities of the person that's going to be able to sustain that kind of relationship with you. And then it's about filtering to find that person. And so then it's about romance and building the right relationship. It's about going past the like, you have the dating, the attraction stage, and then it's like you start to build something, and it has to be romantic, because it's not just a friendship, but it has to be a friendship with romance. And so these are all the dating skills. These are all the relationship and communication skills about dealing with conflict and whatever. And then if you've done the first 4 and you continue to do the first 4, then the outcome is it's like that happy ever after, lasting love type of state. But it means that you have to do all 4 stages to sustain that. Because if you get into a relationship and then you lose your emotional stability, you're going to lose what you can bring to the relationship. You're going to lose that balance. If you lose your vision of the relationship, then, well, you don't, and it's not going to be that you're going to get exactly your way, but it's someone's got a vision, and it's about them building the relationship. It's not compromise, it's negotiation. It's about understanding that some of the things you want aren't necessarily what you really want that will make you happy. And it's going beyond that. And so even when you're in a relationship, you still need to date, you still need to be attractive, and you still need to partner. And again, there's the romance and the relationship building, which you need to do to sustain the relationship. So this roadmap is an ongoing thing where you have to do all four of the aspects to get the happy ever four of the aspects to get the happy ever after. And so it begins with the strong emotional foundation, and then it's about having that emotional foundation, and from that having the vision of what you want. And then again, as I said, this having the vision of what you want. And then again, as I said, there's no shortage of people. It's about attracting and filtering to find the right person for the relationship that you want. Then it's all about building the relationship. And then when you've got all of those, it's about nurturing the bond. And so if you have all those and you're in a relationship, the only thing you need to do, and the one thing that you need to do is nurture the loving bond, because that is the thing that sustains or kills a relationship, are about sustaining that loving bond. So this is the model that I advocate, that I think that you need to take from whatever stage, whether you're in a relationship but you're not at bliss, then you need to go back equally and make sure that you have bliss. Then you need to go back equally and make sure that you have all the elements and build one from the other. And if you're not in a relationship, then you start with the emotions, you start with the vision of what you want when you do want a relationship, and then from then on, it's all about the ship, and then from then on, it's all about doing the next task that's in front of you. And when you do that, then the blissful state, the happy ever after, is inevitable. Because when you look all the ingredients, there's no shortage of people who they may not be at the same stage as you, but as long as they're willing and able to accept where they are, and if they're genuinely willing and to work on the emotional foundations, to work on giving to the relationship, they can achieve it. The problem comes where a lot of people get lost, is that they listen to the words that people say, but not the actions. And this is why lots of people get really hurt and lost in relationships with people. People get really hurt and lost in relationships with people who are, like, they'll talk about the sociopathic and narcissistic person that's really damaged them. But often it's comes because we're so quick to take people on their words. You don't need to trust one straight away. You just have to give them the benefit of the doubt and give them the ability to let you know if you can trust them or not. What you're doing is you're looking, like, you don't commit to a relationship until you've had a chance to see someone. Because when you're at the attract stage, and you like, there are lots of people on dating websites, and they'll want like a promise of marriage before they're going to see someone. Like, you can't know if that person, it's going to take you 6 months to a year in different contexts, in different situations, in different moods, to understand the person. And what you trust is what you trust when you understand the person. And so you like, particularly, like, there's the charming man that will sweep in and tell you everything that you ever wanted, because he seems like the prince that you've been waiting for. But really what he's often doing is he might be a skilled player who understands, like, what the signs are. He understands what to say, when to say it. And that's how so many people get hurt, and so that why they don't trust again. But the way of knowing whether you can trust someone is understanding them, and it's by watching their actions, not listening to their words, because it's easy to say anything And the people that have no conscience, like the narcissistic or the sociopathic, or someone who's sociopathic, or someone who's very needy, will just pretend to be what you want them to be. So you just need to date them, watch what they do, and then you map back. Like, when you have a clear vision and you can see a behavior and you can see, like, is this person, yeah, right? And I think that's part of their character. Are they the person that will be honest, truthful? Like, are they